Hey guys, good afternoon. It's Monday, December 10th. Why is this so blurry? Let me just pull it up. I don't think that changes a thing. Anyway, it shows you how technologically uh, ignorant I am. Anyway, just want to touch base with you guys and share a few things with you. Had me thinking today. So from a me standpoint, it's been a second day in a row off, which hasn't happened for a while, and it's been really good. The fireplace has been going. I'm going to share that with you here uh, in the next, it's been going since about 8 o'clock this morning, and got some things done around the house, a lot of work stuff. I've still got my laptop open right now, catching up on, I guess I had about 10 or 12 of these 18-minute videos I had to watch for safety purposes and workplace violence and harassment and fire extinguishers and all that stuff. So I want to get that out of the way today so I don't have to worry about that at work. Uh, and a few interesting things happened today. One, in the last half hour, I got an email from my son's teacher. Unfortunately, he's had something of a behavioral issue that I need to address and deal with him later today. Um, it's easy to say he's just being 9, but that'd also be making excuses for him, and that's not going to happen. I already spoke to his mom, and together we'll be addressing that. So um, that was something that got me going in the last half hour. Also earlier today, so this is sort of ironic, sad, and funny, but just goes to show uh, the way our society is these days. Um, I live on Castle Road, and there's a bunch of different developments up along the way. And somebody had seen something on the local news and said, "Jim, isn't that where you live?" And basically the story goes that some gentleman, apparently the ex-boyfriend, I don't know the ages, um, of a woman that owned this home, I guess witnesses have seen him pull up in a maroon Chevy Equinox, and apparently he kind of set fire to the home, and the police were called, and he's still out at large right now. So again, this goes to show some of the domestic violence issues that go on in our country, and it's so close to, my home here. But ironically, um, when I bought the home I'm in now with my kids, we looked at that home, and in fact, I made a lowball offer on that home first, knowing I wanted this one. But if I got that offer there, the price would have been hard to resist. So, but it's the exact home that I had made an offer on. So just 6 degrees of separation, no real tie to me necessarily, but who knows where that person would have lived and what would have happened and things like that. So it was ironic though that I got this Facebook Messenger thing. "Jim, isn't this where you live?" And it's a development down below me, and as I said, it was exactly the home that I made an offer on before I purchased the one I'm sitting in right now. So that's just kind of a little bit of a little eerie twist. No one got hurt during this fire, and this guy's out there at large. If you live in the New York area, maroon Chevy Equinox with New York plates apparently is the person who did this. Um, anyway, I figured I'd share that with you guys. It's kind of just these new things that happened this afternoon. Uh, but I did want to share something with you, which I think, I don't know, if it's just me that thinks like that, or if everybody thinks like that, or just some people. I don't know. But I was reading an article today about a gentleman, and I found the honesty in it to be really telling. Like I said, I'm all about pointing the thumb and wanting to be honest with yourself. And this gentleman had written an article because he was serving time in jail, or maybe had served time in jail. A lot of times I'm reading things quickly, scanning, and don't have all my facts straight. But the story is he served uh, jail time for 6 counts of involuntary manslaughter. In essence, he was driving intoxicated, lived 3 miles from the last bar he was at, came over the crest of a hill. Unbeknownst to him, there was already an accident in the road, and people were standing outside. And he acknowledges now, because of the alcohol and drugs he was on, His ability to stop or recognize wasn't there, and he killed 6 people. And the story shares a bunch of different things that I thought were telling. One is that he's lived every day for the rest of his since then, where he thinks about this every day. And at one point he talked about smiling or laughing, and immediately feeling guilty afterwards, as though he doesn't deserve or have the right to smile or laugh because he took these people's lives. And I'm not here to say he does. I'm not here to give him a pass. But I've talked numerous times on this journey why I kind of deal with death differently than a lot of people, and maybe it's because of my own exposure to it at such a young age. But one of the reasons why I live for the moment and cherish even the quiet times like now, sitting here with the dogs in the fireplace and having to go speak with my son here shortly, is because you're never given tomorrow. It's not an entitlement. And I talked in this journey several times about how in a split second people's lives change and change dramatically. This gentleman didn't wake up that day and say, I want to go take 6 people's lives. 6 people didn't wake up that day and say, hey, I might not be here tomorrow. They just went about their day, maybe taking it for granted. They didn't know that over the top of a hill was going to come a drunk driver that was going to end their lives. So it was telling from that standpoint. It was telling from, what I've heard from so many people over the years that, he didn't even think he was, really drunk. And, when you're at the bar a lot, he had a couple beers here and he had a couple mixed drinks there, but he'd been drinking, all day, but not killing it. But, you hear the stories and the statistics and the teachings is that, impaired doesn't take much to be impaired. It's not what you really think you are, it's what you are. And I've yet to meet somebody under the influence that acknowledges, hey, you know what, I'm hammered, take the keys. It just doesn't happen. But it was just, to me, it was kind of a telling story, and I even got to the point yet which really tweaked me. But like I said, I talked about this last night. At what point does society forgive? Do people forgive themselves? It's tough commentary, as I said. I'm talking about people getting tweets pulled up when they were 14 and 15 years old, or even as adults, but 6 or 7 years earlier. Are they still that same person? It's a hard conversation to have, and I know there are people out there that forgive, and there are people that don't forgive. I haven't had, tragedy hit my family, my immediate family, per se, and I hope I never do. And I don't know which group I would fall into. I don't think I'd be willing to forgive so easily, quite frankly, but that's just me. But the other thing that I really took from the article was something that I'm kind of living with right now with my own children. And I've lived with it myself. And it's something as simple as this. And I to the parents out there, even to the young adults out there, I wonder how much this impacts. Like, how much does a decision change a life? This gentleman had wondered, had he gone out for track in high school. I mean, he's sitting in a jail cell staring at the ceiling for a good portion of his life. And so his mind races to a lot of thoughts. But these are things I think about looking back on those years. Part of the fun part about this journey for me has been reconnecting with people I know when I was 15, 16, 17, 20, 21, 22 years old. When kind of life was still ahead of me in the sense that it could have gone any variance of degrees. Right? Now, not to say I couldn't accomplish things or do something with my life, but for the most part, it's set on one or two paths. At that age, you have every avenue open to you. And this man was thinking about basically, he had been, and how it relates to me, and as I think about my own kids, you had to take a sport as part of the scholastic graduation part. So he chose to go to the track and field, thinking he'd be a manager. I wouldn't have to exert any effort. I could set up the equipment and then kind of park on the bench and maybe flirt with the girls, and and the reason he didn't, that he gave, is something that I found even myself a little bit doing when I was younger, and I see it in one of my kids now that he didn't want to be seen to be what he felt the others were joiners, as he called them, joiners, and he was too, I don't know if he was too cool, but he didn't want to be perceived to be a joiner. I think really what he was saying is that he didn't have a lot of respect for people he thought were, he called them joiners, sometimes he called them followers, and as a result, he chose not to. But he wondered how his life might be different, and I really believe it may be, because when you join something, you become part of the team, and you become involved, so many different things happen to you. Friendships are made, doors are opened. Certainly, you meet some people you may or may not care to be around, but you learn from that. This guy chose to be a bit of a loner, and he chose not to be a joiner, and he set out in high school, and it kind of just started to set up his life the way it was. And maybe it wouldn't have been any different. Maybe it would have been. I don't have the answers, but I do think it warrants the question. And now, again, think about how this strange thing we call life is. Let's assume for a minute you subscribe to the theory that his life may have been different. 6 people would still be here today, possibly, right? Not probably. How one decision can impact so much of so many people's lives, and so many of us don't even know it. I don't know. Maybe somebody made a choice that I'm still here because of that choice. Maybe I don't know, but this is the way my mind works a little bit, and I think it's healthy. I do. I think it's healthy for us to question and to ask, and I think it leads us to become better mentors, parents, role models, grandparents, whatever the case may be. If we acknowledge that, hey, maybe had I done something a little bit differently, maybe my life would have worked out differently. To those of you that heard, part of my life story, I've had 4 miscarriages, and kind of all I ever wanted to be was a dad, and had given up on that. And I met Heather, and she blessed me with children. And there's a song by Garth Brooks called "Unanswered Prayers." When you're going through a breakup or a relationship, or you think it's the end of the world. But had I not gone through those breakups, I wouldn't have my kids in my life. And the one thing that I could never imagine life again would be life without my kids in it. I could imagine anything else, but I couldn't imagine life without my kids in it. So, maybe, as the song says, those things all happen for a reason. God had a plan for me, and I'm blessed with 2 great kids, although one apparently has a disciplinary problem I need to deal with. So it's been a fun day, but again, I like deep thought. I really do. And it's striking that this man in jail, through everything, wasn't wondering if he hadn't had a drinking problem or a drug problem or drinking that day, but had he joined his high school track team, his life would be any different. And that's how far back it goes. And as my kids are coming up through school and activities, I won't expose them to as much and hope they embrace it. So that's today. I am eager to tell you that I have one more video to finish and get my son, and tonight will be a night where I'm back at the book and writing. Probably going to go about, I'm going to guess, 4 to 5 hours tonight. So based upon what I've been writing, that should cover, well, I'm still in the first part of the journey, the first third, where there's a lot to write about. And so I'm probably going to cover in probably 2 or 3 days. Not quite a week, I don't think, because that seems to be a lot to talk about. But that's a little bit from me. Anyway, I promised you guys I would share some of my, I don't know if you'd see, but there's my little fireplace over there. In fact, the reason I chose this house over the other house is because of that fireplace right there. And there's my Christmas tree. And the other night at the bingo, we won a stuffed reindeer in part of our gift bag, so he's now our treetop ornament. I don't know if you can see him up there, can you? Can you see him up there? And anyway, and there's my fireplace. So anyway, thanks for sharing, guys. Thanks for supporting. I'll take care of everything else tonight with him, and get back to the book for us all. I really enjoy writing, I do. And thanks for being part of everything. Take care, guys. Have a great Monday.